Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to today's video. In the end of 2024, posted a ranking of all the palettes that I'd tried in 2024, and I did so without realizing that I hadn't ranked the last chunk of palettes that I had been working through. I mean, by the time I did the end of year ranking, I had used them, but I hadn't actually shared a video telling you guys how I ranked, the last 10 palettes or whatever that had come into my collection. So that was a total derp kind of moment. And despite the fact that I recently ranked everything I brought in for the year, I'm going to rank those palettes anyway, just to, in my brain, finish off and catch up to where I am starting in 2025. So I will be ranking in this video the palettes that I had most recently finished trying, playing with, experimenting with, getting a good feel for them. If you watched my 2024 ranking, you'll know where they fell, but if you didn't, this will be new. Okay, all of the palettes I'm talking about today, if they're still available, will be linked below in the description box, along with any kinds of codes I have with brands, suggested playlists, other things. There's usually a good amount down there, so be sure to check it out. We're gonna start with this pile of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, pile of 9. We're going to start with number 9, and this is going to the Uden's Mighty Monster palette collaboration with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. I feel bad about this. I like Annette. I think the color story is beautiful. That's why I bought it. I know Annette has worked twice with Uden's, and she said that she is happy with the formula of this palette, but it feels like in 2023, just the whole year, Uden's formula was not what it should have been, what it had been in the past, and it may be with the 2024, 23 to 24. It seems like maybe the 2024 Christmas palettes, Silvery Bliss and Rosy Jingle, people are saying that that formula does seem to be better than the launches of the previous year. I don't know, I haven't tried either, but the year that this was released, I have had problems with the Uden's palettes, and I think the color story is great, but it's just so hard for me to work with. Several of the mattes are patchy or just not very pigmented, and then all of the shimmers, pretty much all of the shimmers are just really dry. This one's a tiny bit more flaky and is possibly the most impactful as far as color payoff. These are kind of toppers, but they don't really perform very well even as toppers. This one is this weird hard pan, but it's like a soft gushy, just it presses so firmly into the pan when you get it with your finger that it doesn't actually pick up. I don't know. I don't know. I have been so disappointed in this palette. It's actually already listed for sale. Maybe somebody else will enjoy it more than I, has different preferences or collects Uden's or collab palettes, but it's just not working for me. Next, we do have another Uden's palette. This is the Hey Reindeer. It was a trade with a subscriber, and with this one, I think the packaging's great. I think the color story is difficult, but I like the colors themselves. And I recently posted a video talking about how I was gonna be dipping my toes into the world of BYOP, Build Your Own Palette. And this is one of the 2 palettes that I'm considering tearing apart and just pulling out all the pans so that I can play with the pans in my own color arrangements, enjoy the colors, and get use out of these shadows, but not the way that they're laid out here, because I'm struggling with that. I haven't decided yet, because I mean, the whole complete package is so nice, but I would rather use the shadows themselves than keep a palette that's just sitting around, because the specific assortment and layout is a struggle for me. As far as the quality of this, I have noticed a little bit of dryness in 1 or 2 of the shimmers, and this matte right here is not quite as pigmented as it should be. It ends up looking kind of white. This one also a little bit odd. They're not as bad as the Mighty Monster, but I think they're not quite as good as my other Uden's palettes, so this just seems to be part of the year that Uden's was struggling. I don't dislike that palette enough that I want to just get rid of it. I think I might see if I can secure the shadows as singles and then play with them from there. Next, I have the Wildwood palette from Alter Ego. Love the packaging, love the theming, love the design. Really, really nice quality. Like, this is hefty. I mean, this is significant. This weighs several ounces more than my Gourmand Girls palette. This is nice. I think the design is so much more beautiful than the palette it's duping, which is the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. I do actually prefer the Yucca's layout because it's a little bit less it's just more interesting. And I've considered, because these are magnetic, I've considered rearranging these shadows, but then the shadow doesn't match the name, and that bothers me. But anyway, this palette's good, and I've heard people directly comparing it to the Yucca and saying that sometimes they even prefer this one. The reason it's ranking lower in today's list is just because it's more monochromatic. It's less varied. I like the formula. I like the color story. These colors are a little bit chancy on me. They can pull out the gold and green flecks in my eyes, or they can make me look rather unwell, depending on how I use them. But on the whole, I like to play with these colors, and I think it's a nice palette. It's just more monochromatic, so it can't be higher. Next, we have one that's definitely not monochromatic, and this is from It's Belle Cosmetics. They are no longer in business, so I can't link this palette, but this is their collaboration with Brie from Brie C Beauty. She's a friend here on YouTube. She's a super sweet lady, and they created this together. This is a beautiful palette. It really is quite lovely. It's very bright, very colorful, very pigmented. I've been impressed with the It's Belle formula. The mattes are super pigmented, but then the shimmers are quite smooth and creamy, a little bit flaky. They're like the emollient formulation that you're seeing in a lot of indie brands. I think, without personal experience, that this is probably like a Bella de Beauté bar shimmer, and probably like the Fantasy Cosmetica shimmer formulas. I don't know, I haven't tried either of those, but this seems to be what they look like. That's just me speculating. I think this palette's lovely. I think that Brie did a great job. I like that we've got white, we've got black, we've got a couple of lighter tones, a couple of mid-tones. Besides the black, there's nothing that's really deep, but you can use the black to deepen, obviously. You can go pastel if you add in the white. It's a pretty assortment of colors. You kind of got some quads going on. It's nice. It's nice. I think that Brie and the owner of It's Belle just did a really nice job together. Now we have a palette from Revolution Beauty. If you remember, they bought out BH Cosmetics when they went chapter 11, and this is part of their Icon series. This is the Enchanted Icon. I think it's supposed to be duping the vibes, if not the straight color story dupe, of the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions palettes. There's this one, but then 3 or 4 others in the Icon series. These two are cream. I don't know that I'll get any use out of these, but these are really pretty. It's a pretty color story. It's a very easy color story. I think it would work on a lot of people's skin tones. This shimmer right here really reminds me of BH Cosmetics, which is a good thing. I mean, it's about time they start using the formula, right? The other shimmers don't quite remind me of BH, but they are still very pretty. They're very dynamic, quite sparkly. And this one is a sneaky, sneaky shade. It reminds me of a shade in my Lethal Wildflower palette. It's like a blue, pink, purple kind of thing with a lot of very thin shine, if that makes sense. It's a nice palette. They have a couple different colorways. I think I might want to try 1 or 2 more. We'll see. Then we have a palette from Sigma. Now, in the past, I have owned the Alice in Wonderland and the Untamed palettes from Sigma, and I was really hesitant to buy another because I decluttered both of those, just generally being unimpressed. The mattes I found, they blended a little bit too much. I felt that they over blended, and the shimmers were pretty, but not very exciting. I thought that the shimmers were a little bit dry. But then I saw this palette. I liked the color story, and I watched a whole bunch of reviews, and people were giving it good reviews, so I decided to take a chance, pick it up for my birthday. Here is the Little Mermaid collaboration palette with its pretty little sleeve. They did something different here. Sigma stepped it up for this palette, and I don't know if they've stepped it up recently for all of their launches, but this one is different. This one is beautiful. I love the color story. It's quite similar to the Mighty Monster, and I thought I'd love that one and not be so sure about this one. In fact, the opposite was true. Really unhappy with that one. Very pleased with this one, and delighted and surprised. Each time I use this palette, I am surprised anew because the shimmers are so different. This shimmer is multichromatic. It reminds me of the shimmer in the Speakeasy palette from Nomad. I mean, Sigma? What are you doing? Reminding me of Nomad? What is happening? But this one is like a gold, bronze, red sort of shift. It's thick, it's creamy, it's a little flaky. It's super pretty. This one over here, blue, purple. This here is sort of a green, purple shift. Something's going on with these, and it's not a bad thing. The mattes are easy to work with. I haven't found yet that they've been over blending. I haven't used it a ton, but I've used it a few times, and it's really pretty. Really, really lovely. We have inner corner highlights, we have depth, we have individual color stories. You have more color, blues and purples, a little hints of green, gold, some neutrals, some pink. I mean, I'm really happy with this palette. I'm quite surprised and pleased, and yeah, just generally delighted. Also, before I forget, I did film today's eyeshadow look, and I'll link it down below in the description box. The only palette I have from Ensley Rain was one in a giveaway from Heather Eaglin, Ashes on My Lashes. This is the Cold Moon palette, and it's lovely. It's so, so pretty. The mattes in here are phenomenal. They're pigmented, they're creamy, they're like a powdered butter. They're so, so soft and silky. That's the word. They're silky. Beautiful, beautiful. This is a very, I would say on the whole, unvaried color story because all of the foundational colors, all of your mattes are similar. They're all going to be gray, leaning mauves or neutrals or just grays. The shimmers themselves are what can change the look a lot because the shimmers are shifting with pinks or greens or golds or purples. So there's variety in the shimmers themselves, but because you're putting those, again, even the shimmers are still kind of within close color families, you're putting them with those foundational mattes, which are similar as well. On the whole, your looks are going to be very, that's the Cold Moon palette and nothing else. I do like it when a palette can surprise me. I mean, if I use this palette, I've had a few people say, wait, you've used the Little Mermaid palette for that look? Yeah, and that's what I really like in a palette, is when it surprises me. But I really can't rank this any lower because the formula is stellar. The formula is amazing. So I'm really pleased with it. It's delightful. It's so much fun. I've noticed that Ensley Rain, when they do cool tones, they very much tend to be this color story. You've got gray leaning mauves, purples, or neutrals. I would like to see some cool tones that are like in their mattes, especially maybe some more blues or cool tone greens. Just give us cool tones in other colors, because when I look at all of their cool toned offerings, even in their smaller palettes, they still remind me of the Cold Moon. And I feel like, well, I don't need to buy that because I already have it, if that makes sense. And then the top two palettes in today's ranking. If you saw my 2024 ranking, you'll know that I really struggled with the top three. These were two of the top three. And initially I just did a cluster top three, but then I said, as of today's feelings, I would do 1, 2, 3. So that's what we're doing today as well. I'm going to put the Lure palette from Unearthly Cosmetics in spot number 2. Every time I open this palette, I drool a little bit. A part of me just goes, ah. It's so lovely. It's so beautiful. It's such an interesting color story. Blues and teals and pinks. The shimmers in this palette are shifting. They flip different directions, so you can get so many different looks than just what a typical 9-pan could give you, because you can grab onto the undertones or the flip of a shimmer and pull it out with different mattes, or pull it out with a different shimmer too. It's super varied. It's super, super gorgeous. I love the formula. This is the first palette I got from Unearthly, and instantly fell in love with the formula. In mattes and shimmers, it's perfection. The mattes are so creamy, they're buildable and blendable, they're soft, they're rich, they're beautiful. And the shimmers are lightweight and sparkly. I love it. I love it. Lightweight and sparkly. These are quite pigmented. You could get toppers, you could get more neutral or more or less opaque tones, but no matter what you get, the shimmers from Unearthly are amazing. And then in spot number 1 for today's ranking, now I'm wondering, did I do like, they might have been switched in 2024's overall. I don't remember. You know what? My life is full of little kids who are constantly taxing my brain, so give me a bit of grace. Today I'm going to say Sisserous Smoke. Spot number 1, Unearthly Cosmetics, also gorgeous. The neutral palette for the color lover, the colorful palette for the neutral lover. We have cool tones, warm tones, color, neutrals, depth, lightness. It's beautiful. I think if I could change anything, I would make one of these, probably this one, a darker forest green, and I would bring in one lighter shade. I think between these two, I think this one. That I would keep lighter, this I would keep a little darker, and this one I would make maybe almost a pastel, just quite a light toned, either shimmer or matte. Maybe shimmer, maybe matte. Either shimmer or matte, but something that's a little bit lighter can be used as an inner corner highlight, or just to put on the inner part of the lid, brow bone, or face highlight. But oh my goodness, this palette's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. I paired this palette with, I think the Lure palette from Blend Bunny, and I got this gorgeous, rich, deep purple look with these shades here. So, so pretty. This one over here, in my recent Singing with the Symphony video, it was a 2-night concert, and the second night, I put just a pop of this color at my inner corner, and it just, it just woke up the whole eye look, brought in a little bit of interest, brought in a little bit of color, but not too much. It was still professional. It was still lovely. I don't know. Those palettes are just, their tops. So that's my recent ranking. I'm sorry that it came after the whole yearly ranking. You know how things go. But I hope you've enjoyed today's video nonetheless. Do remember to check the description box for today's eyeshadow look, as well as other playlist suggestions, links of the palettes mentioned if they're available. I appreciate you so much. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments below. Do tell me what you think. Do you have these palettes? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Have you already decluttered them? Have they risen to the top? What do you think? I want to chat with you. Perhaps you'll consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed today's content and you want to see more, and I look forward to chatting with you in my next video. Bye guys!